The Formula One tyres play a significant role in the performance of a Formula One car. The tyres have undergone major changes throughout the history of Formula One, with different manufacturers and specifications used in the sport. Now, who makes them? Well, from 2011 onwards, the tyre supplier for F1 has been the Italian manufacturer Pirelli as its sole tyre supplier. There are 7 tyre compounds available for this 2022 season. 2 of them are for wet weather driving, while 5 of them are for dry weather driving. Now for the wet weather driving tyres, the intermediate, which is indicated by a green sidewall, is for light standing water conditions, and while the full wet is indicated by a blue sidewall for heavy standing water conditions. These tyres are available to all teams at every Grand Prix. Now the remaining 5 dry weather tyres are for dry running, of course, and they are denoted from C1 to C5, with C1 being the hardest tyre as it provides the least grip but is the most durable, and C5 being the softest, having the most grip but being the least durable. In the 50s and 60s, F1 tyres were supplied by Dunlop, Engelbert, Firestone, Continental, and Goodyear. Slick tyres were introduced to Formula One by Firestone at the 1971 Spanish Grand Prix. In 1998, grooved tyres were introduced with 3 grooved lines in the front tyres and 4 grooved lines in the rear tyres. 2001, Michelin entered F1, creating a tyre war after Bridgestone had been the sole supplier the preceding 2 seasons. In 2005, tyre changes were disallowed in Formula One. Therefore, the compounds were harder as the tyre had to last the full race distance around 300 kilometers, which is 200 miles. Later in 2006, tyre changes was reinstated. November 2009, Bridgestone announced their withdrawal from Formula One at the end of the 2010 season. On 24 June 2010, Pirelli was announced as the sole tyre partner and supplier for the 2011 season of Formula One and would receive a 3-year contract. Let's see the 2022 specification of the F1 tyres. Currently, the new 18-inch tyres were designed from the ground up, with every element of the tyre drawn from a clean sheet of paper, and was put through the test by nearly all teams over 20 kilometers during the testing period earlier this season. For the 2 wet weather tyres, remember we have the intermediate and the full wet. Well, the intermediate is called Cinturato Green Intermediate, and they are the most versatile of the rain tyres, and they can be used on a drying surface. Full wet blue is very effective for heavy rain, capable of dispersing impressive quantities of water. You might be wondering what happens to the tyres during a race weekend. Well, here is it. Teams are told what tyre specifications will be used no less than 2 weeks before each race. The softest is always used if a car gets into the final part of qualifying, which is known as Q3. At each race, the supplier presents and hands over all the sets of tyres to the FIA technical delegates available. Each team gets 13 sets of dry tyres to use over the weekend, 2 sets of hards, 3 mediums, and 8 softs. They also get 4 sets of intermediate tires and 3 sets of full wets in case the rain falls. Now, out of the 13 dry sets, teams must nominate 1 set that can only be used for the first 40 minutes of first practice, and they must hand that set and 1 more set back within 2 hours of the end of FP1. All teams must keep a fresh set of the softest compound ready for the final part of qualifying, Q3, in case they make it in. All cars in Q3 must then use that set during the top 10 shootout and hand back a used set of that tire within 3.5 hours after qualifying ends. In the race, the drivers must use at least 2 different types of dry tire, at least one of which must be one of the mandatory race specs mentioned earlier. If it rains, intermediate or wets are used, and drivers don't need to change tires at all if they don't want to. All the teams that don't make it into Q3 can choose which tires to start the race on, but those that go into the top 10 shootout all have to start on the exact set of tires they use to make it into that session, unless it is raining on race day. If you've noticed, some teams try to gamble on getting through Q2 on medium tires rather than using up the faster, softer compound to give them more scope for strategy in the race. In Formula 1, race strategy is key to you doing anything major on race day. If a tire is damaged in Q2, teams can ask for a replacement, but the decision to give them one is down to the FIA technical delegate. Pirelli, the sole tire supplier of F1 currently, nominates 3 of the compounds to be run at each race. Out of the 3, the hardest compound is named the hard tire for that weekend and is denoted by a white sidewall. The softest compound is named soft and is denoted by a red sidewall, while the third compound is named the medium tire and is denoted by a yellow sidewall. Drivers have to use at least 2 dry weather compound tires during a race unless the race is affected by wet weather. The only exception to this is during testing, where all 5 dry weather compounds are available to be used by the drivers in order to test how the tires will work during the course of the season.